Then on the flip side, the Spurs 4 games back by Golden State. I think they're pretty happy with that second spot, although it would be interesting to see how these teams play one another when they face each other again. But it's that 8th spot that's up for grabs. Portland, Dallas, Houston, and Utah. Utah's basically tied for Houston for that last spot, although they're out right now. And Dallas half game back, Portland 1.5. So that's going to be something that you want to watch coming down the stretch. Now, let's get to my pick. The last pick, Kings Timberwolves over 223. I stayed off it because DeMarcus Cousins was ruled out just before the tip. Again, keep an eye on those last-minute line changes, but I want to say sorry to my good friend Runline Reese, who's not only a Buckets Brigade member, but he is a dream teamer. He's posting stuff all the time. He asked me if I was going to be off it on Twitter. I didn't have a chance to get to him, but this guy puts out good stuff each and every night on Twitter, so keep an eye out on that. But for my pick tonight, ugly dog alert. Give me the LA Lakers plus 2.5 against the Nuggets. The Nuggets have won 2 of this season's 3 meetings against the Lakers. They've held Bryant to an average of 15.7 points per game. Nuggets going to have let down after that buzzer beater. Plus the Lakers 13-7-1 against the spread with double-digit revenge. They have a reason to play. The Nuggets do not. Give me the Lakers plus the points. That will do it for the segment. Please remember to follow me on Twitter. My handle is @ColeRyan9, and you will instantly become a part of the Buckets Brigade, along with some of my newest followers, which include Cooper, John Preble, and Kevin Calnan. Welcome aboard, guys. I appreciate it. Let's share some information. Let's really go after this NBA season, finish strong as we look forward to the playoffs. Good luck, everybody, on this Good Friday, and good luck this weekend, and win big betting the Buckets.
Well, good stuff there from Cole Ryan with today's edition of Betting the Buckets. Sorry about that. I didn't realize that segment had ended so quickly. But in any event, make sure you follow Cole on Twitter @Cole Ryan and the number 9. Become a member of the Buckets Brigade, and you get a lot of great information sharing being done over there with all those people on Twitter. So again, that's @Cole Ryan and the number 9. So take a look at the NHL card for tonight, particularly for the weekend, because there are only 3 games on the docket after 11 games last night. Tough night for us on the ice. The Blue Jackets outshot Carolina pretty badly, but gave up 3 goals in a 2-minute span in the early part of the third period. Were unable to get the equalizer, lost that game 3-2. Very surprised with Dallas' effort last night. Also surprised with Louis Domingue coming back from injury for Arizona with a very strong goaltending performance for the Coyotes there in that one. I was pretty surprised with how flat Dallas was. But, hey, I mean, it is the time of year for those things to happen. So, you definitely need to be very aware of playoff situations, of how teams are managing their goaltenders here at this time of the year. That's really the big one is, if you're locked into a playoff spot or you're very close to one, or it's just a formality that you're going to pick one up, you're going to take things a little bit easier. You're going to continue playing your star players. This isn't really like the NBA where you rest a lot of guys, but you lower their ice time. Maybe you keep them, maybe they get 5 or 10 fewer shifts at even strength, but they're still going to be out there on the power play because you still want everything to be clicking in unison. You want to keep your lines together. You want to keep your continuity together. Of course, you want to make sure that your power play and your penalty kill are rolling into the postseason at a pretty decent clip. So a lot of times star players will play. They're just going to be limited in situations where they could get into trouble. Guys aren't really going to get hurt out there on the power play. The penalty kill, you may get hit with an errant shot or some kind of thing like that. And maybe something goes wrong in a corner battle. But, the best players are going to play in special teams, and they're going to see their ice time limited in even strength. However, one thing you want to consider here is that, for the most part, a lot of seeding is still left to be determined. You've got a handful of teams that have clinched playoff spots. You've got 4 of them so far. San Jose should do so very, very soon here. But, seeding is still up for grabs. Home ice is a big deal for a lot of these teams. So keep that in mind, that a lot of these teams still have incentive to keep playing. A lot of these teams don't have incentive to sit their big guys. Now, they will do what they can to monitor the workloads of their starting goaltenders. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind. There are sites like Left Wing Lock and Daily Faceoff out there that pay attention to starting goaltenders. Of course, you can always find that information on Twitter as well. But, a rough night last night, so we'll look to get back at it. As I said, probably not tonight, looking more at Saturday. But in terms of tonight's games, you've got Washington, a -180 favorite on the road at New Jersey. You've got a New Jersey team here that went on the road last night, knocked off Pittsburgh 3-0. A very impressive win for them, backstopped by Scott Wedgwood in that game. It's kind of hard to expect New Jersey to follow it up tonight with a quality effort. For Washington, this is one of those teams I'm talking about. They have nothing to play for. They're in a much different situation than a lot of other teams. They've already clinched the top seed overall in the Eastern Conference, so therefore they've already clinched the division as well. I think they're going to step up and play well in games where they're invested. One like that would be tomorrow night against St. Louis. I don't know how invested they'll be in playing the Devils here tonight. The Devils, no postseason prospects. They're 6 points out with 8 games to play, so they're not going to make it. But they're still playing hard for first-year head coach John Hines, and you got to give them credit for that. So while I'm not excited about it, if you're dying for NHL action tonight, throwing a half unit at most on New Jersey, is a play that you could certainly justify. But in terms of tonight's card, there just really aren't a whole lot of great betting opportunities. You've got the Islanders taking on Tampa Bay. This is a game I previewed at BangTheBook.com for tonight. Tampa Bay a minus 150 favorite in this one. I do like Tampa Bay in this spot, but regular listeners of the show know I don't like to go higher than 140 in a lot of instances. Thomas Greiss back in net for the Islanders tonight. He hasn't played particularly well of late. Ben Bishop's been very good throughout the season. I think Tampa Bay, in a game that should be low scoring, it favors them because they're a little bit more consistent offensively right now. The Islanders have scored 16 goals in their last 9 games. So they're really struggling. And also they're very fatigued. They just played their first set of consecutive home games since mid-February, and they've been traveling a ton. So they're back out on the NHL highway here tonight. It's just tough for them to get up for all of these games, but I don't know how much I trust Tampa Bay, particularly in this spot. However, the Lightning have a lot to play for. A win here tonight would tie them with Florida in the Atlantic Division. They have the head-to-head, or they have the regulation overtime wins tiebreaker. So Tampa Bay, you'd much rather play Detroit or Philadelphia here if you're Tampa Bay than play a team like Boston, for example. So we'll see how this thing plays out. I think Tampa Bay is a good look for tonight in terms of if you have to find something. But again, as I've said, I don't really like to go higher than 140 in a lot of situations. So, this is definitely one of them where I wouldn't look to do it. And one quick note about that Washington game here. Remember when Washington played, was it Tuesday night, I believe? When they played Tuesday night in Ottawa, and I said, hey, I'm really looking to lay the 145 price here on this game. Ottawa's not a very good team. And I don't know if this game is just inflated because of the back-to-back, but, Washington was a minus 150 there in that game against Ottawa. And then tonight they're a minus 180 against New Jersey, who just beat Pittsburgh last night. Strange line there. It's a very strange situation. You could find some situations like that here late in the NHL season. But that's one that kind of jumped off the page to me. Vancouver and St. Louis. St. Louis is a $3 favorite in this one tonight. Vancouver has embraced the tank. I will give them credit for that. They're doing exactly what a team in their position should do here this time of year, and that's lose games. They've dropped 6 in a row. St. Louis, I believe they can clinch a playoff spot tonight with a win. So a little bit of motivation for them. Obviously there's no reason to play this game from either side, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But we'll look ahead to Saturday here, where we're going to get some really interesting betting opportunities because there are 14 games on Saturday, including 4 day games. This is going to be a very, very interesting Saturday card. All but 2 teams in the NHL in action, beginning with Winnipeg Jets and the Buffalo Sabres. Here you've got another one of those spots where Buffalo can take advantage of an early start time. 1 o'clock puck drop here, so it's 11 a.m. for the Jets. The Jets have nothing to really play for. The problem here is price you're going to have to lay on Buffalo. Winnipeg took advantage of Los Angeles on Thursday. Maybe we get a little bit of recency bias bump in that line. But for me, that's more of a spot where Los Angeles was just in a terrible situational spot. 6 games in 9 days, I believe it was. So that was just not a good spot for the Kings. The Jets took advantage there. But, early puck drop here, relatively quick turnaround after playing the Kings at home. I don't see Winnipeg up for this game at all. But, you can't lay that high of a price on Buffalo because they're not that great of a team. So you'll have to see what that number comes out at. But Buffalo, anything in the 140, 145 or lower range, I would look to play. Anything higher than that, I don't trust Buffalo enough to lay a number like that. Pittsburgh and Detroit, another day game here for this one. So, we'll see how these two teams fare. I mean, obviously Pittsburgh coming off of a really ugly loss last night to New Jersey. You'd figure they'd be plenty motivated. Detroit certainly doesn't lack motivation. They've got a 24-season playoff streak on the line here. Obviously, this group doesn't want to be the group that ends that. So, two very important points on the line there in that game. I think that could be a 3-point game. I think if you want to take a gamble on Saturday's card with the early games, maybe you play Pittsburgh, Detroit to go to overtime because, I think you'll have both of those teams really giving a max effort there in that one. Minnesota, Colorado, another interesting one here. You've got a Colorado team that, again, found a way to squander its home ice advantage yesterday. They are very banged up. They won't have Matt Duchene or Nathan McKinnon for that game tomorrow. So, early puck drop against Minnesota. We got to see the prices on these. I wish I had odds out for these, but that's certainly a very interesting game there to be sure. Dallas and San Jose. How about this one? This is a 1:00 local time puck drop. You don't see a whole lot of those in the Pacific Standard Time. You see them in the Eastern Time because you've got that Sunday NBC game. But here, just a very difficult spot for both of these teams. San Jose obviously not accustomed to playing early puck drops, coming off of a really ugly home loss to Edmonton. Dallas coming off of that lackluster loss to Arizona. So both teams here in bounce-back spots. But that early puck drop could really wreak some havoc on that game. So definitely a strange situational spot for both of those teams in that one. Boston and Toronto, original 6 game here in this one. Boston needs that win badly. Toronto, a team that shouldn't put up much of a fight, but we'll see what happens in that one. Rangers, Canadians, this one made the crack for my situational betting article here for this one. Standalone road game for the Rangers. Montreal, tough to see this Montreal team really stepping up, but they've played okay of late. They've been decent at home at the Bell Center. Rangers, this game squeezed in between playing Boston a couple nights ago on Wednesday and then playing against Pittsburgh on Sunday night. Pittsburgh and New York, when they get together, that's a very big game for both of those teams. This is one where you want to see the line. If Montreal is priced as too big of a home dog here, I think they're worth a gamble. I think that's a team that you can play on. Expect a good effort from them taking on the Rangers. Ducks and Senators. Ducks having some injury issues right now. Interesting game last night when they played Toronto. That was a game that I felt where Toronto wasn't really worth a gamble, and then they go and win that game 6-5 in a big-time shootout. That's not at all the style that Anaheim wants to play. They're happy to score 5 goals, but they should not give up 6 to anybody. So, definitely interested to see what kind of bounce-back situation we get there from Anaheim in that one. But, again, I mean, it's going to be too big of a road price to lay. I can tell you that right now. Tampa Bay and Florida. Tampa Bay has already said that backup Andrei Vasilevsky will play this one against Florida. Obviously, this is a game that means a lot to both teams. This one could decide first place in the Atlantic Division, at least for the time being. So, interesting one there between two teams that, know each other very well. Curious to see the line for that one. My guess is going to be that Florida would be your value side because Tampa Bay is getting priced in the 150 range with regularity right now at home. That's going to be too high of a number against a Florida team that I think is pretty decent, to be sure. The Blues and the Capitals. Again, as I said, Washington, I think there's only going to be some certain games here where the Capitals get up the rest of the way. I think this is one of them. St. Louis is a very, very good team. Washington, when they want to play, they're superior to everybody. Curious to see the line for this one. I think if it's too low, if Washington loses to the Devils tonight, I think you may get some recency bias here in this number to where it's worthwhile to take the Capitals. It all depends on the number, but I definitely want to see what that one comes out. Another situational spot I want to touch on here, Flyers and Coyotes. I think this is one of those situations where you're going to see Philadelphia as a road favorite, just like they were against Colorado, and maybe as too big of a road favorite. But for Philadelphia here, 5th game in 8 nights, end of a stretch of 4 games in 6 days. It went from Brooklyn to Columbus to Colorado to Arizona now. So not a great situational spot here for Philadelphia. This is a decent spot for Arizona. Philadelphia can't afford to lose games, but there's only so much the human body can take. And 5 games in 8 nights at this time of the year is really, really difficult. So Arizona might be worth a look tomorrow night as a home dog. Should be able to get plus money on them in that spot, particularly with Philadelphia taking care of business on the road against Colorado. So, in looking at tomorrow's NHL card, I think you've got some good betting opportunities.